Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the Iron Life, to enhance your health, master your health, to build wealth, grow your fitness business, and to achieve ultimate fulfillment in your life, because that's what this damn thing is about, right? So that's what this show is about. And first, you guys know, if you are a listener of the show, you know that I always like to kick it off by thanking you guys for leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or a written review. I say it every week, but I'll continue to say it, guys. It is such a big piece of us growing the show and reaching more people. And guess what? The show is growing, and you guys are the reason for that, because you guys are taking the time to leave a 5-star review, a written review, or share the episode with a friend. Taking that time, guys, it really does make an impact. It really does help the show. So if you do enjoy these episodes, you like hearing me, just flap my gums up here, then I'd really appreciate it, if you haven't done it already, to just take a quick second to leave a 5-star review, or if you have an extra second, to leave a written review. Or guess what? Even if you feel that this episode right now is valuable, at the end of the episode, you feel like you've gotten value from this show, just share it with a friend who you think it will help. Doing so will help us grow and reach more people, guys, and potentially change more lives. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to do that. And guess what? Today is the day before Thanksgiving as we're filming this right now. So to just express my thanks and gratitude to all of you guys for being a listener to or of this show and showing your support. I just want you to know how grateful I am for all of you guys, how thankful I am to have you as a part of the Iron Life family. It means the world to me, and I appreciate you guys more than you know. So thank you for that. Now, let's get into today's episode. What I want to talk to you about today on Thanksgiving Eve is how to build a bulletproof core. Now, I know that it's bulking season right now for most of you guys listening, but here's the thing. That doesn't mean you should be getting fat, and it also doesn't mean that you should be getting weak because it's bulking season, right? Everybody's talking about, putting on weight, putting on muscle. You should be gaining strength always. We should always be focused on getting stronger, building muscle from head to toe. One of the key things when it comes to getting stronger, now I know most of you guys know this, but, if you're not a fitness pro and you're listening to this, understanding that getting stronger is not just about moving more weight. It's also about bulletproofing yourself from injuries, avoidable injuries. As you age in life, you want to make sure that those little bullshit injuries that will occur, like somebody bends down to pick up the newspaper and they blow out their fucking back, like those things are completely avoidable. As long as your training is dialed in, so you guys are strengthening the body as a chain from head to toe. So when we talk about core training today, the stuff that I'm going to share with you is what will help you guys build that ripped six-pack by the time summer comes around, if you do what I'm going to tell you to do, and if you get your diet dialed in, which we'll talk more about. But what we're going to share with you today not only will help you build that ripped, shredded six-pack, but it's also going to help you prevent injuries, help improve your back pain, and just keep you strong, keep you healthy. And especially, listen, if you are a weekend warrior athlete, I know there's not the 22-year-old athlete necessarily listening to this show anymore. Because, my message is more geared towards the older population in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. So some of you guys may play soccer on the weekends, or maybe you do martial arts, or maybe you're a police officer or firefighter where your job involves movement, right, and activity and, pulling hose or, wrestling people to the ground. We got to make sure that we prevent these avoidable injuries. And that's what today's show is about. So when I say building a bulletproof core, that's what we're talking about. Not just the look of your abs, but actually the performance as well, right? So first, let's talk about what the main function of the core is, and honestly, like, what is the core? Because oftentimes we talk about core training, most people associate that with abdominal training. And although that's a part of it, it's only a part of it. It's not the entire thing. So the core is the entire musculature from the shoulders to the knees, right? So think of the delts, the traps, the upper back, the low back, the pecs, the abs, the obliques, the glutes, the quads, the hamstrings, the hip musculature. All of this is part of your core. So you could see that training your core is much more than just doing some crunches and sit-ups, right? It's getting everything strong and dialed in. But we will talk a little bit more specifically about the abs today and building a, ripped six-pack and all the other things. But first, let's just dial in on what the core is. What is it made up of, right? So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing we need to look at is what is the primary function of the core? So we think about all the musculature that I just told you about. What is the primary function of that? Well, it is to stabilize the spine while the extremities move, right? That is the main function of the core when working together as a whole. The main function of it is to stabilize the spine as the extremities move. So first, let's look at what will go into your core training. You keeping that definition in mind and thinking, keeping that musculature in mind. What are the things that we need to do to enhance your overall core training? All right. So first, let's look at basic compound movements. Right now, I want you to kind of write these out, step by step. Step number one is compound movements. So we could write it like that. So this makes more sense to you. So compound movements, things like squats, hinges, lunges, different deadlift variations, even rowing, pressing, push-up variations. That's all targeting your core. Think about it. When I squat, I need to stabilize my spine to keep it neutral while my hips and my knees are moving. So my extremities are moving. If I'm doing a push-up, the same thing. I need to stabilize to maintain a neutral spinal position as my elbows and shoulders are moving my body through space, right? So when you think of these compound movements, just know that you are targeting your core as well as the prime movers of the exercise, right? So you might be thinking of quads, glutes, hamstrings as the prime movers, or the quads and glutes as a prime mover of a squat. However, your core, right, the entire makeup is stabilizing the spine to keep it neutral while you're moving your body, okay? So that's really important to recognize, because when we are talking about those compound movements, that's the significance outside of just boredom alone. That's the significance of loading the body with different positions or different implements, like, maybe you use a straight bar for a front squat, maybe you do a straight bar barbell back squat, but then a safety bar squat or a goblet squat. Like, just changing the tool is going to change the position of the load on your body, which is going to target different areas of the core, which is going to force you to stabilize different loads in different positions, right? So it's the same thing, like if you're doing a single leg or unilateral exercise like a split squat, if you're holding dumbbells at your sides with both arms versus a contralateral load versus an ipsilateral load versus placing a bar on your back and doing a lunge. Again, different positions, different ways to load the exercise. The prime movers still remain the same, but we're turning on and activating different muscle groups because of the different positions of the load. So having some variety in your loading of these compound movements is a great way to work out any imbalances and keep that core strong for the long haul, to help us, again, improve any of these weak links to help you avoid injury. Now, the thing is, where are you in your training? Are you brand new? Well, if you're brand new, you just got to learn how to stabilize with body weight or with a really light load doing basic movements. But as you become more advanced and you understand these movement patterns a little bit better, now we could start to play around with different ways to load the exercise so you could adapt and then take it further in your training. So the more advanced you get, the more you could work in different styles of loading and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind, all right? But remember, the big thing here is big compound lifts, right? Multi-joint exercises are ways for you to target your core almost indirectly, right? Because we got the prime movers working, but the core needs to be stabilized to keep that spine in a neutral position, all right? So hopefully that makes sense. But now, the next thing I like to look at are basic stability exercises, and hopefully the first thing that comes to mind for you are different planking variations there. So guys, as you know, there are hundreds, I don't know about hundreds, but there are a lot of different variations of the plank. You got traditional planks, you got side planks, you got different side plank variations. You could do an advanced side plank. We could do them under tension, like a dynamic plank. You have planks where you could wrap a band around the trunk and you have a partner kind of pulling on the band, so you have to resist that movement. Like, there's so many different planking options out there that you could work in. The intention here is not to go over every one of those. You guys could just pull those up on YouTube, do a quick search. But just know that doing those planking variations will help us resist movement. And again, the stability factor there, that's one of the key, that's what stability is, right? It's like help us resist or prevent unwanted movement. So when you work in different planking options, that's what we're doing there. We're targeting some of those smaller stabilizers as well as the larger groups to help us prevent unwanted movement in life, right? So developing more stability from head to toe is going to help you avoid those avoidable injuries, all right? So different plank variations. Let's make sure that we have those in your program. And again, there's a broad spectrum there. If you're brand new, you're starting with the basic level plank. Make sure everything's dialed in. And by the way, when you're doing a plank, okay, we got to talk to our clients about this at TTS all the time. When you're doing a plank, if your hips are sagging real low, or your butt is up in the air, or that movement is just constantly happening, like low hips, high hips, low hips, high hips, then we're not actually doing the work that we want to be doing when you're actually doing a plank, right? So we want to make sure that the spine stays neutral and maintains that position. And what you're going to do to maintain that position is flex the abs, flex the glutes, flex the quads, flex the pecs. You can even pull down on the floor, so you're kind of pulling your elbows. They're not actually moving through space, but you're applying downward force from your elbows towards your knees. So you're actually activating those different muscle groups, turning everything on so you're active. You could do different, like an RKC plank where you have max tension, you're squeezing as tight as possible, right? You're really bracing as hard as humanly possible. You're pulling your knees towards your elbows and your elbows towards your knees, and you're maximizing that contraction. So that would be more of like that RKC planking style. But, just in general, make sure everything stays tight and on and you're breathing behind your brace, because if there's too much movement, we're kind of defeating the purpose of the plank. All right, so let's keep that in mind. Next up, we have the rotational exercises. So with rotational exercises, things like Russian twists or different landmine rotational exercises or bodyweight rotational exercises, remember, we need to be able to maintain spinal position as we rotate the body, right? As the trunk rotates, or even if you, like, for example, like a windshield wiper, if you're lying back with your legs up in the air and your hips and the legs are rotating, we need to make sure that we are training the body in that pattern so you could, again, strengthen all of those muscle groups that involve rotation, okay? So we have to make sure that you program this stuff into your routine. Now, some of you guys might try, for example, like a Russian twist, and maybe you have some back issues and that bothers your low back. Well, there's other exercises that may not bother your back. You just have to see what is best for you. But make sure that you're loose, you're warmed up, you broke a sweat, before you start working these things into your routine. But you need to be able to rotate, especially if you are looking to get really lean this year. You want to build, that shredded look in your abs, the obliques. We have to make sure that you're adding these rotational exercises into your program if you want that look. So we have compound movements. We have different stability or anti-movement exercises like planks. We have a ton of those. We have a ton of different rotational exercises. Now let's get into the fourth category here, which is anti-rotation. And we could take planks and we could really plug that into this category as well, but I do like to keep them separate. Just so when you look at it, it's like, okay, we have planks and then we have other types of anti-rotation exercises that are not planks, just because there's so many different variations of planks. So these different anti-rotation exercises, things like the Palov presses or the alphabets with the band, what we're doing, again, is we are resisting any unwanted movement. So for an example, if I take a band and I tie it around the upright of a squat rack, and now I take that band and I hold it with both my arms and I put it in front of my heart and I take a big step out to the side, right? So now the band is trying to pull me back towards the rack and I have to really flex my abs to keep everything on. I have to brace like I'm taking a punch to the stomach. I have to squeeze my glutes, my quads, everything is on. And now I'm just slightly moving my limbs, right? Moving my arms with the band pulling me, and I create, sorry, did I get too far away from the mic there? I hope you guys heard me okay. Sometimes I get into this shit, guys, and I forget about what I'm actually doing. So as you're moving your hands with the band pulling you back towards the rack, you're really going to see, you're going to have to activate and resist that unwanted movement from getting pulled back towards the rack. So you're going to have to turn everything on times 10. Make sure you do both sides there. But there's so many other exercises that you can do with a landmine to resist that rotation. Like, again, take the time, do a quick YouTube search. I could even post more up, on my Instagram or YouTube. If you guys want that, just shoot me a DM on Instagram and let me know at Chris_Tutela, Tutela. But we need to work in those anti-rotation movements, just like we need to work in the rotational movements. We have to work in the anti-rotation stuff as well. All right. Then we have locomotor movements. So that's going to be things like different loaded carries. Again, when we are moving the body through space, so just think about walking, right? We have to keep your spine neutral, right? A nice neutral position, or sprinting as we move the body through space. That's the locomotor movements, right? So now with that being said, if we add a load to that, like on a farmer's carry, now we're loaded. We have to stabilize the spine. We have to really brace the core so we don't get pulled to either side or forward or whatever. So we have to turn everything on as we're moving the body through space. By the way, great exercise to develop the forearms, grip strength, your traps as well. So it's a big bang for your buck. I love farmer's walks. I like them as a finisher. I like them as a little test, a fun little challenge maybe at the end of a workout. They're great. So anyway, heavy farmer's walks, or you could do different variations of those. So you could do a single arm farmer's walk. You could do a waiter's walk. You could do like a front racked kettlebell and have a dumbbell at your side. So your left arm has the front racked kettlebell and the right arm is holding a heavy dumbbell, right? So that's just loading the core with different positions, different loading protocols, right? So that goes a long way. But loaded carries, those locomotor movements, are one of those things that will really, again, help you prevent injury, bulletproof that core. Now, finally, the next thing here, the thing that's actually going to build those big, blocky abs. So if you want to get shredded, we have to train the abs just like any other muscle, right? So they can actually develop in size. This is going to be your direct abdominal work. So this is pretty obvious stuff, right? The hanging knee raises, the reverse crunches, the sit-up variations, rope crunches, I mean, the list goes on and on for direct abdominal work. But just know that, the old saying, abs are made in the kitchen. Yeah, for sure, you need to bring your body fat down low enough to see your abs. But if you want them to look really like you want that shredded look, then we have to develop the muscle, the actual rectus abdominis. We have to develop that as well, just like any other muscle, right? So you need to train them directly. So that not only will give you the look that you want, but again, it's contributing to just strengthening the body in a different movement pattern as well. So when we work your direct abdominal training into your program, now this is your direct ab work. I kind of like to put this on the same playing field as rotational work, because this is the stuff that will get you sore, will get you fatigued. So you got to be a little bit more strategic with this on where you put it into your program. I wouldn't want you to slaughter your abs the day before, like a heavy squat day or heavy deadlift day or something like that, because the abs are going to be fatigued, and that plays a role in your lower body training. So I like to do abs on my lower body days at the end of it. That's typically when I like to throw in direct abdominal work or rotational work. The other stuff you could get away with programming it on other days of your program. Again, it depends on what your program looks like, so you could be strategic with it. But, the anti-rotation stuff is not going to really get you sore and beat you up where it's going to affect your other training days. So just keep that in mind. But anytime you're hitting abs heavy and hard where they're going to be a little bit sore, you have to be strategic with that, because just like any other muscle, you want to hit them. You want to hit them hard, allow them to recover, and then hit them again once they're recovered. So just be mindful of that. But when you have all this stuff dialed in, guys, not only can you potentially build that ripped six-pack, again, your diet is the thing that will bring your body fat down low enough. You're not going to be burning fat by using an exercise over your abs. But your diet brings your fat down, as well as lifestyle, movement, and other things, right? But your diet's going to be the big thing. And your training is always the thing that's going to build the muscle underneath the fat tissue. Okay, so let's get that fucking fat off. Let's build the muscle. Now you have that combination where you could build a ripped six-pack, but most importantly, you're going to feel better. You're going to move better. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be able to prevent avoidable injuries. If you are a police officer, firefighter, martial artist, or anyone, you play soccer on the weekends, basketball, like those sport-specific injuries, maybe your lower back gets a little bit jacked up or whatever, this will contribute to you feeling better and avoiding some of those injuries. So just keep that in mind. Oh, hey, by the way, even if you don't play any sports or anything and you're just living life, you go bend down to pick up your kid, some people blow their backs out by doing that. Remember, the core is playing a major role in that. And again, just to remind you guys, when I'm talking about the core, I'm also talking about the glutes. I'm talking about the low back. I'm talking about the upper back, right? It's not just about the abs. So back to the first section here, the first category of core training, we talked about compound movements. You got to make sure that your program is well designed and balanced, so you're hitting these different muscle groups throughout your training program. Remember, it's not just about the prime movers of the exercise. It's also about these other muscle groups that are being targeted indirectly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So, guys, I really hope that this episode helps. I know that you guys want to be strong, you want to be jacked, you want to be lean, and now is the time to start making those adjustments in your program so we can prevent injuries. And by the time summer rolls around, because you guys will know it will be here like that, we want that ripped, shredded six-pack for the beach this year. It'll be here before you know it. So make sure you get these things dialed in. Let's get you jacked and tan. And that's it, guys. That's all I got for you today. I want to wish you all a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your family, with your friends, whoever it is that you're spending your Thanksgiving with this year. Enjoy the time. Take your phone, put it on fucking airplane mode. Be present for your family. Not to depress you guys, but that I've lost people very close to me, my dad, my brother, And those are the moments that, you cherish the most, especially when people are gone, and you never know when people will be gone. That's the unfortunate reality. Sorry to depress everybody on Thanksgiving, but I do, always like to remind you guys, if you're listening to this show, that, life is precious, life is short. So take the time. Don't be scrolling on fucking Instagram when you're sitting there with your family. Turn that phone on airplane mode. Enjoy these moments. Enjoy this time. Even if you got somebody that always likes to argue with you on Thanksgiving or whatever, if you're spending time with them tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to the show, just, try to embrace those moments, because, you never know when the next one will be, or if you'll have another chance. So with that being said, guys, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy tomorrow and always. And I love and appreciate you guys. And I will talk to you soon. Peace.